I got a motor. Yep. Okay, so hear me out. Beds on these so I can build a frame. Okay, for real talk though, talk about trying to get 2 pieces of toilet paper to stand up on end. The wood doesn't even need to be there now, actually. The wood's just kind of, it's not even supporting anything. It's fully supported by this. I built this whole rack system here so that way I can pick it up myself. So I'm going to now clean off the area up there. I'm gonna kind of just set this up there and see what it does. My concern right now is that if I set it down on these edges, it's just gonna kind of like buckle. So I'm gonna see what I can do about that. What in the world? Alrighty, well, it has been a few weeks. Unfortunately, the way things have been, I've been doing a lot of work. I've worked on Heads Up Hustle. Event went really well, but here we are. So this is the main core support, core center structure of the frame. I don't know how you would want to call it. The cab mounts are going to be at those 2 ends there. Roll bar frame rails are going to pass all the way through, and then that's going to be exhaust. Now, when I took this to a machine shop to have them make this because I wanted the holes exact so that everything would just slide through perfectly and everything would be square, and I didn't trust myself to do that. They ended up cutting the drive shaft hoop on the wrong end. I ended up patching this over a few evenings. I just haven't really had the time to really film. Like I said, it's been a lot of work. So now I am going to be cutting this out myself. So that's going to be fun. Alright, so it's been a few days since I've posted, actually a few weeks since I've recorded any video, but wanted to give an update. This is all finished being machined. I ended up welding in the plugs, or not the plugs, but the pipes that tie the whole thing together. So we got it in place with the cab on the truck. As you can see, no cab on the truck right now, but we got this setting in place with the cab on the truck. I ended up welding and bracing bar number 1 to the frame table. From there, I started creating these forward bars. I drew up a cardboard template, what I wanted it to do. Got those bent. It's just 4 bars that are exactly the same. And then we got a bunch of these little spacers. They slide all the way, they can slide all the way along. And then cut these flush. And I got some 1/8 inch plate steel cut out and slotted. So that's basically going to box in. These tubes are going to be welded. You can see all the way up on the inside. These top bars, I'm going to have to create some gussets. Basically going to box this in on the inside. But these will work perfectly. I can weld all the way up and down on both sides. That'll fit in there perfectly. This will get boxed up in there, welded in place. With that being welded in place, that should be plenty strong, because you have to think we're going to have bars coming from the dash bars and the down bars to one side of the strut tower, and the other side of the strut tower forward. So it's all going to be triangulated. You got to think of the whole roll cage as a whole. Once it's done, we're going to basically just weld in the backs. Basically going to weld in the back here, and obviously weld around both sides of that. So that'll be super strong, and then it'll just be making the bars forward and down. It's just a lot of tedious. I mean, this has taken a ton of hours to get this all bent. Thanks to John Paul, Dorian, and John. They've all been very, very helpful in this process. And then on top of all of that boxing, and on top of the bars going forward and backwards, this piece of metal here, where the old unibody continued on, the cab actually butts up here. Actually very close. I think it's about probably about 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch away. I'm going to basically create a strip of metal that goes from this and joins to the cab. So that's going to add a ton of rigidity. I'm basically turning this back into a unibody. So the entire strut tower is not only going to be tubed to the chassis, it's also going to be welded and boxed, because it's going to be boxed here from here as well. It's going to be boxed also to the cab. So the cab structure is going to be supporting it. The roll cage is going to be supporting it. So I really think it's going to be plenty strong for what we're wanting to do. Okay, well, it's been like 8 months since I've posted. Probably not that much, but it's been a while. And I wanted to give an update, because there were some people in my life that wanted to see where I was at, and that was a very loud gunshot. And I haven't posted any pictures or anything, so a lot has changed. Well, really not a lot has changed, but a lot has changed. It's a roller now, so it's completely cut free from the frame. I have all the frame rails bent up and installed. I have my custom brackets here that I got CNC machined. They're all just tacked in place at the moment, because I need to be able to take the cab off and get the rest of it welded in. I don't want to weld it with the subframe on there, because there's rubber mounts in here, and I started welding that guy over there. You can see the discoloration. Actually, while it was still on the frame table, I started welding it fully, and I started melting this rubber that's inside here. And these are like a $50 part, so I don't want to just melt those willy-nilly. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to take the cab off one more time, at the very least, take the rest of it off, weld all that in place. That goes for the front as well. This is what the inside of the cab looks like. I have a cross member made for the transmission. I've got my thrust bearing mounts all created up. I use some custom laser cut CNC brackets. I'll show that more in depth once we get the cab off of it. I am still waiting on shocks, so I have those ordered from QA1. That was very expensive, but these mounts are just loose right now until I get those and I know exactly what angle I want to run them at. As far as the back, the bed sides are all set up using a system of tabs and bolts, just like that. There's tabs on the inside of the bed side, and then it just is supported on the back. The roll pan ties it all together with a couple of self-tappers. That's actually how the original truck was set up, with just self-tappers into the roll pan. So that's how that's going to be set up. I still have not done anything with the tailgate yet. I have it all skinned, but it's going to sit on this bar eventually. And stepping kind of far back, this is kind of how it looks right now, just as far as the back goes. The fuel tank and everything is going to go back here behind the rear subframe. And as far as fuel tank goes, I haven't ordered anything yet. I'm probably going to be getting something from Radium or something like that, some sort of race tank. Moving to the front of the truck, yesterday I completed the front clip and bumper support. I created a plate that goes, I cut this. This is originally extended back out to about here. I cut this back. These are the charger frame rails. I built a plate here, welded this in, just kind of rounded this off so I wouldn't be hitting my knee on it. I bent some tubing up, made some brackets here. Excuse kind of the rough look of these. They're going to be ground down a little bit more. But the brackets on the original core support originally were here. I cut and relocated them to here. And those match up here. Now they do require some shims because I wanted them to be adjustable on some level. So if I either put some rubber there or just keep the washers that I'm using as a shim, either way will work. Unfortunately, yesterday when I was creating this whole bracketing system for the core support, I messed up. These are right in the way of the stock bumper. I flipped the locations in my head. This is why it's good to take notes. I completely put these brackets in the wrong spot. So I'm not going to be moving these. These are where they need to go. Both the core support and this whole front subframe that I've created, they're all welded in place and done. I'm not cutting this open. So I'm going to have to modify the stock factory bumper brackets, try to figure out some way to get them to mount properly, and so the bumper gets on there. Probably not going to be explaining a lot of what I'm doing because honestly, I don't even know what I'm going to be doing with this. I have to figure it out. It's a big problem we have to solve, and I don't really know where to start. So I'm just going to start where I always start by putting it all on there and just kind of looking and seeing what needs to be done. Well, there it is. Definitely, I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I don't like the way it looks. And it accentuates the fact that these are not in the same place. You can see that they're in different spots. But unfortunately, so I'll preface this with everything is square on the truck, but what ended up happening was I believe this bend is just slightly different than this bend. And when I put these on, there was no easy way. It didn't really matter if they were in exactly the same spot as long as I got the holes right. And I got the holes right on them. But it's really accentuated now that I have these on here that they're not in the same spot. And, you know, it's a race car. It's not meant to be a show truck. And I have to keep reminding myself that. This is a result of my lack of planning. Well, it's not really lack of planning. What my mistake. And my mistake was that I basically inverted the locations of this mount and this mount. So anyway, that's on me. But hey, lesson learned, right? And I guess that's all. It's all about life, right? That's what life's all about, learning lessons. I've actually learned a lot of lessons with this. I'm not super happy with how these look, but that's okay. Like I said, it'll work. It holds the bumper in place. So I'm going to put everything back on there for a final fitment. I mean, it's not like I'm going to be able to really change much, but these mounts are really strong, and it should be able to hold the bumper just fine. So I'm going to put everything back on the truck, see how it all lines up, probably put the hood back on too. I'm also going to clean a little bit around this area. I've been working right here in this area for the last 4 days, so it's getting really messy. So I'm going to clean up a little bit, get everything back on the front of the truck, see where we're at, go from there. Okay, so obviously there's some alignment issues here, but I actually have some adjustment in the mounts I made. But yeah, ta-da! The front end is technically bolted on. Now, again, like I said, there's got to be some adjustment done. I don't have the door on, so I can't really line up the lines, but standing back here, I can tell that the bed needs to be aligned still, but again, those are just tabs that I need to do, and you can see that sagging there in the center, and then there's a hole. There's a big hole right there. There's also a big hole right there and there, so not too worried about that. That is pretty close. Like I said, I got a little bit of adjustment I can make there on both sides, and I think this gap is exaggerated by the fact that this bumper is warped. A lot of these second-gen bumpers end up sagging over time. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to take some sort of turnbuckle, and I'm probably going to go up behind the fender here where you can't really see it and just kind of squeeze it together. I don't know, we'll see. But this is pretty close, and I definitely can move it up and down on the brackets I made and forward and backward just a little bit. So I think we can get it. And I think that will do it for me for today. It is the day before Christmas. I believe that's what people call Christmas Eve. So if you're seeing this, Merry Christmas. Me to my future self, don't give up. This was an all-day project, and I tell you what, there was like 5 times today where I legitimately thought I was going to give up, but I think it's worth it, man. Like, it's really coming together. It's starting to look like the truck that I had in my mind, and honestly, I'm just so thrilled with how it turned out. Thank you, John, Dorian, and John Paul, because this would not be possible without you three. But I think that's going to do it for me.